Hey everyone, welcome to another brand new review episode here on the Outlaw Nation channel. We're talking about Ted Lasso Season 2, Episode 3, Doing the Right-est Thing. So I'm excited to be talking about this. I am the Outlaw John Rocha, and I said I'm excited to be talking about this with my co-host today who's been joining me along with these reviews from Season 1 into now. Shannon McClung, how are you?
Johnny, who could have known when we started talking about Ted Lasso in Season 1, some of the things that they were going to get to? I mean, the fact that they made this season, again, we've talked about this before the tidal wave of love. The fact that they had the foresight to do some of this is really, really impressive. And just, I've seen so many people on Twitter saying Ted Lasso is the best show on TV. And I would struggle to disagree with them.
Yeah, I agree. I think so. And I think because I think you can't ignore what's going on in our world. You can't ignore what's going on with the COVID, with the shutdowns, the political climate, everything like that. Ted Lasso is a place you can go and put down your shield, put down your sword, and actually just sit or if you're a person who doesn't want to get involved in that stuff, but you're around it, it's a place to go and escape into a better world, the possibility of a better world. You know, this is a more touchy-feely AFC Richmond now. You know, Rebecca and Ted are just aces with each other. Keely is very happy in a relationship with Roy. Even Jamie Tartt coming back, which we'll get to full time in this episode, leads to some really sweet moments between Jamie and Sam. So these things are happening, and you want to escape into a world where the possibility of better communication, even if there have been mistakes, even if there have been breakdowns or betrayals or whatever, that a better world is possible once you get past the reasons for why you do the things that you do in life, you know? So yeah, I agree with you 1,000%. And I remember when people weren't going to watch this show, it's a soccer show, I'm not into it. It's so great to see so many people have come around to enjoy the show for sure. But yeah, this episode comes to us, Season 2, Episode 3, Doing the Right-est Thing. Right-est Thing, I should say, Right-est Thing. And it's written by Ashley Nicole Black, who is a actress and writer on the Black Ladies sketch show. I think that's on HBO. Have you seen that one, the Black Lady sketch show, a Black Lady sketch show?
Yeah, isn't Issa Rae have something to do with that?
I think
or
so.
Was she in an episode? Because I feel like the one that I saw, Issa Rae was in it.
Gotcha. Yeah, Robin Thede is the one who runs here with Ashley Nicole Black and Gabrielle Dennis. And there are Amber Riley's been on this thing. Phil Lamar, Issa Rae, definitely. She's been on 5 episodes. Yvette Nicole Brown, who's very, very funny. David Allen Greer, that's a legendary comedian there. So many people involved in that show. But Ashley Nicole Black, this is the only show from what I'm looking at IMDb. This is the only show she wrote this season that I have here on her credits. So, and it's so interesting because we have 3 really interesting storylines running through this show. One, we've got the Jamie Tartt coming back to AFC Richmond full-time, Shannon. We've got Nora, Flo Sassy Collins' daughter coming in, Rebecca's goddaughter, and their relationship now after 6 years of her being away, which we talked about in last season, how she had disappeared from Sassy's life for 6 years. And then also the Sam storyline here of doing the rightest thing, which is to ban Dubai Air from appearing on the uniform by taping it up and making a stand here against a huge conglomerate, a huge corporation that's one of the biggest sponsors of the club. So we'll get into those storylines as we go along. Just want to remind you all to please leave a comment and please leave a like as we go through this throughout the episode. All right, Shannon, that, as I said, the first storyline here, let's start with the Jamie Tartt thing. He is back full-time at AFC Richmond. Ted is asked about it in a press conference. He speaks about it, kind of really powerfully saying, hey, we got to give second chances. But then the club really, the players do not want to see Jamie back. This is a different club now. A club that was under his rule and scared of him last season is now more than willing to make fun of him. And he tries to apologize there. And everybody has a litany of things that Jamie Tartt has done. And he says, hey, coach, when Ted Lasso puts him on the reserve squad, he says he's down to do it, but he lets it slip. I've got that God-given talent. So the arrogance is still there, which is what I warned you about last review. And then later he goes to Keeley and is like, hey, what's the problem? These guys want to keep paying. They hold on to these grudges. They need to let it go. And Keeley walks him all the way to the therapist, which leads eventually to a great moment between Sam and Jamie at the end of the episode. What do you think about how they handled the Jamie Tartt storyline in this episode? Did his redemption come too quick for you, or did you feel it fit within the scope of the show?
I think there's a possibility, depending on how the rest of the season plays out, that maybe it was a little fast. Because at the beginning, when I think is it Keeley or Rebecca comes in with Sam's sort of Dubai Air photo shoot,
yes,
and all the other players start to kind of, start to bust his balls a little bit, kind of, some locker room ball busting. And even some of them, I'm like, that's kind of mean. But then when when Jamie tries to jump in, I mean, he just gets shut down. Yeah. And as you said, like, this is a club that he had under his thumb before. Like, even his sort of minions, they have moved on past him. And when he finally says, like, when he does ask, Ted, like, hey, can I say something? Like, if you have something you want to say to me, go ahead and say it. And the moment that the whole club just dogpiles him, and Jan, who I think might be one of my new favorite cast members, this very thick Dutch accent, I don't know you, but I don't like you. I mean, that's something that I think the show does really, really well. Is the show starts, it's all about Ted.
Yeah.
And as it continues, we're getting these really interesting supporting characters with their arcs, with Jamie, with Sam. I mean, I feel like Jan's gonna have an episode.
Oh yeah,
no doubt,
absolutely.
Danny Rojas. I mean, we're getting these just really, really great stories. And yes, when he basically says, I understand I have to earn my spot, but as Ted calls him over, he's doing these kind of little hip stretches, taking his time getting there. I don't think deliberately being a dick. I don't think he's actually, I think this is like, well, no, this is how I approach people on my time. And then that great moment at the end, which I think we'll talk more about that with Sam. But yeah, I mean, I can see where it may have come a little soon, but depending on how the season plays out, I don't know. I mean, is Jamie just doing this to get on everybody's good side? We'll find out.
Well, I think we're going to find out, because I mean, this is a bit of an easy redemption in one episode, but as you said, Shannon, we've still got seven more episodes, I think, to go in the season, and so there is more here to see from Jamie Tartt and whether his redemption is truthful. Because I mean, like I said at the beginning here of this segment, he is talking about constantly mentioning his God-given talent, constantly mentioning how great he is. So there's still that belief in himself that he is the bee's knees, so to speak. So how much is the interaction with the doctor, the therapist there, going to unlock that stuff? And by the end of the season, will this be a completely different Jamie Tartt, who is very self-actualized, very self-aware, very much more emotionally intelligent? And will that threaten the relationship of Roy Kent and Keeley? Because Roy at times can be a bit of a wall with his emotions. And we saw in his interactions with Rebecca, when they're talking about dealing with kids and stuff, that he is, you want to go to my, he's got a stronger approach to kids, and he doesn't like it. He says it's effing annoying that that his niece loves him. So he's not the most open, emotional guy. So is this the route that Jamie could maybe slide in and cause some problems between these two? That's a possibility.
Man, I certainly hope not, because them as a couple, they're a delightful couple.
Yeah,
and
they are.
Roy is just such an enjoyable curmudgeon. When he gets introduced on his second segment on the pundit show,
yes.
And you just see him do that kind of slow. It's so Again, he's just such a fantastic grump. But also going back to Jamie Tartt for just 1 second, the moment where Sam slide tackles him in practice and basically says, like, this is a new team. And you wonder, like, obviously Jamie's a very talented talented, gifted player, but you wonder how much, I think when you have someone on your team, when you have like a Jordan, there is sort of a natural deference to them. Right. But now that he's kind of been, we now see that God bleeds, like he's no longer up on Olympus. It's like, okay, is he about to get a lesson in like, hey, this is what it's like when you have to earn your spot. Like you're gonna catch some crap.
And how far is Ted willing to go to make this happen? Because we should talk about this. We got the appearance of Lead Tasso, which had been teased in the trailers. Now, I thought this was going to be something where he kind of lost it and became Lead Tasso. This was a conscious decision by Ted Lasso to become Lead Tasso, much to Coach Beard's chagrin. And then he ended up out on that pitch doing some crazy stuff and going off on the guys. And eventually Coach Beard had to slap him back into clap him back into place, and he snapped out of it right in front of the doctor who was there.
How long was I out?
Yeah, how long was I out and all of that? But then you find out afterwards, because they're talking to the doctor, that this is a tactic they've used before in order to take the attention away from a player so that the entire team doesn't gang up on one player. So he's kind of bending over backwards. He's willing to take the hit to help Jamie not become the bad guy in this situation and get him back on the team and get him playing well with the team and get the team to support him as well. So will it work or not? I don't know, but we got Lead Tasso. Did you like seeing that?
Oh, so funny. So funny. And even like his Mr. Hyde, I think the way Jamie described it, even in his Mr. Hyde version, he's still really nice. Like I know, right? He's not out there. He's not out there cussing up a storm or anything. Nope. I mean, it's really, really funny. How do you think Ron Joka would handle this situation?
Oh, Donnie? My God. 2 claps would not be enough to snap me out of it. That's for sure. Let me just let you know, my assistant coach would have to do more than two claps to snap me out of it. But Ron Joka has appeared at times for sure. Watch some old Schmodown matches. Ron Joka shows up for damn sure. But yeah, I mean, I don't know how would Shannon McClung handle it? How would Shannon McClung handle it?
I don't think well. I think just from my namesake, I'm already operating at a deficit. Ron Joke is that's a good Lead Tasso name. Shannon McClung. Yeah, I mean that's just an invitation for jokes at my expense.
Although Vike Mogul is dangerous, so we shall see if that ever shows up. The Vike Mogul, I think that would be scary.
Yeah. I'm sensing sort of like a leader of like a gang from the Warriors. that's how I'd see Vike Mogul.
Maybe we'll do a Beak Gutties one day and just do all those characteristics in all 3 of our things for a show. All right, let's move on here to the next storyline. We got Nora showing up. This is Flo Sassy Collins' daughter, who we didn't know about. I don't think she was referenced, or maybe she was referenced in season 1, but certainly the 6-year disappearance of quote-unquote Stinky, a.k.a. Rebecca, from Sassy's life was touched upon when I think she was over 2 episodes last season. And so it's kind of brought up here with the fact that she hasn't seen Nora in 6 years, and she is the godmother to Nora. And of course, that was during the marriage and all that madness that was going on there. So she's trying to make up to it. But we see Rebecca struggling with this because she wants to still revert back to her being 6 years old and taking her to high tea, taking her, trying to maybe walk her into a doll shop, all these things. And it isn't until she has that interaction with Roy that I mentioned earlier that she kind of opens the door to the possibility of having Nora shadow her throughout the day as she works. So she's really like blown away by the fact that Nora wants to know what she does for a living and gets involved, and it has some great back and forth with Keely about that banter app, the dating app there, talks to Higgins about the players and how they're paying for the players. And then she even gets involved when the Dubai Air owner there gets into some back and forth with Rebecca over the sponsorship situation. So did you like having this Nora in here? Did you like her being there throughout the episode?
As it started, I feel like introducing a precocious child into any television series after, like, once you've kind of got your world established, that's always a risk. But I think the way, like, I loved her introduction with Ted. I thought it was super, super funny. Watching her relationship with Rebecca, like them walking past. I mean, I don't know. Is it the British girl or British, like English girl? Like it's the American Doll equivalent in England. And you hear the way she talked about no one does orphans better than us English. And I was like, wow, that's really, really funny. Yeah. And then also how she is able to kind of figure out how the players are paid and everything, and they're like, wow, she got it quicker than Ted. Yeah, I mean, I'm still a little fuzzy on some of the details of European football. Relegation, I'm still wrapping my head around. But no, I mean, I thought she was funny. I think she was the right amount of precocious to be entertaining.
Yeah, I think so too. And the actress Kiki May, want to give her a shout out. She's only done like a couple of things, so she's a very new actress in terms of her career. So having her come onto a set like this, Shannon, you've been the guest star on numerous shows that have been humming along for quite some time. It's not easy to walk onto a set, even for an established veteran actor like you. So a young teenager coming onto the set might have been a little bit unsettling. But according to Hannah Waddingham, she said that Kiki May was fantastic. As soon as she came on the set, she looked like she was in control of herself. She was hanging with everybody, and it was a good situation working with her, essentially as her little best friend is what she called her, quote unquote, her little best friend here, or little sidekick throughout the episode. I liked it too. I thought it was a nice color. We start off the episode with her interacting with Ted and joking about how long she's been on Earth. She thinks she's in her third life on Earth. So obviously you can tell this is a young soul. And you got to understand this. This show is yes, it's an American in Britain, but it's kind of got a British point of view. So there's cussing, there's middle fingers and stuff. There's her being involved in these things that normally in an American show you'd kind of rarely see a 13 or 14-year-old, a 13-year-old, I guess, be involved in these kinds of situations. But across the pond, that's actually kind of not out of the realm of possibility. So I liked a lot of it. And this is what struck me watching the show. I need to know how much knowledge Bill Lawrence, Brendan Hunt, Jason Sudeikis have about the British culture, and of course Ashley Nicole Black, who wrote the episode. How much of knowledge do they have? Who's the advisors on this, or are these guys Anglophiles? Like my girlfriend and I are massive Anglophiles. So when I'm watching the show, sometimes I forget that this is Americans who are mostly behind this show, the creation of the show, because it feels like a very authentically British show with a lot of the innuendos, a lot of the culture stuff that they speak about as just normal. It is not, or that they show as just normal. I don't normally see an American show, so sometimes I forget that Americans are behind this thing. So that speaks to the authenticity, in my opinion, of this show in terms of the British point of view.
Yeah, definitely. Like Brett Goldstein, I believe he was the story editor the first season. So when you have a writer, I mean, I think when you have a writer's room like that, even though like Ashley Nicole Black is the credited writer, like she wasn't the only one. She wasn't the only one who did it. She's the credit. This is her episode. She was actually the one plunking out the keys. But with a writer's room, it's a lot of ideas bouncing back and forth. Everyone kind of works together to kind of break the stories, and then the writer goes off and writes them. So the fact that you probably had an English story editor and probably other English writers in the room, that would be my guess.
Yeah.
That probably informed a lot of the kind of the truisms of the British culture that you're talking about, which, I mean, for me, again, I certainly loved when I visited London 20 years ago. But I'm not an Anglophile to the degree that I can pick out that's genuine and that's not. So I think having a writer's room that is probably part American, part English probably has a lot to do with that.
Yeah. And I think that's important. And Nora was a nice, and we'll move on from the storyline here real quick to get into our last storyline here. I liked Nora as an addition. I wonder if she'll be back. I like Sassy. I mean, look, we only get a little bit of Sassy in this episode, Shannon, and she immediately embarrasses Ted talking about their sexual, which was hilarious, their sexual escapade that night. But then says, like, was he this way the whole time? She's like, oh yeah. And eager to please, which I liked, since she spits out her biscuits. So I thought that was a nice little moment for Ted Lasso. So every once in a while, a little more of the sexuality creeps in, but not too hard, but it does creep in, and I like it. And so hopefully, I mean, I'm kind of want Sassy and Ted to at some point have some kind of relationship. It could be interesting, but we haven't seen too much, and we haven't seen too much with Ted's kid either. So where's that going to play into season 2? We haven't seen him on the thing too much, on the phone too much, communicating with his young son. So I want to see if there's going to be that coming down the road. And what about if his ex-wife going to meet somebody? So anyway, I'd like to see more of Sassy, and maybe even some more interactions with her and Ted down the road as well. So, all right, let's move on to our next thing here, our last storyline of the episode, and that is Sam's protest against Dubai Air. You know, as you mentioned earlier, Shannon, Sam is so proud to be, there's that scene where Keely walks in with the magazine of Sam sitting in there. And, we've seen those airplane magazines our whole lives. Soccer players do, or football players do end up on those magazine covers and whatever and he's feeling pretty proud of himself. And this is establishing Sam a lot throughout this episode. But then his father, while he's on the treadmill, texts him back after Sam is pretty proud to send him this stuff. And his father says, "My God, I can't believe you did this. You're a corporate shill." How does his father know? His father's pretty good in the emoji game, or the emote game there, with the icon throwing up, but then explain he's a corporate shill, which causes Sam to go into this kind of crisis of conscience, which I think the episode is named after him doing the rightest thing, and protests Dubai Air, walks away from the campaign, which Rebecca has to handle, and then puts black tape over the Dubai Air logo on his jersey. Let me tell you something that would never happen in the Premier League, or even in the Championship. That would just be such a problem on so many levels. But it is a TV show, so you allow a little bit of space. But the fact they did it, and some of the other Nigerian players or Nigerian descent, players of Nigerian descent, do it, and then Jamie Tartt steps forward to do it himself. They end up losing the game, but they make this protest. What did you think about all of this with Sam, and also Jamie coming in at the end with redemption?
I think from sort of a real world perspective, which you have to allow for creative liberties to take place. Yes. The moment that Sam sends that picture off to his dad, like, my gut reaction when he wrote back, because I was scanned over the text quickly, all I see was a corporate shill, and I was like, "Dad, really? Like, you're gonna knock him down?" But then you read the next part about how it had affected Nigeria and like all that. Like, real world, I think Sam's dad would have brought this up prior, because Dubai Air is right there on the jersey. So I think this would have,
a great point.
This would have happened before. That's my guess. But then watching Sam take that black tape out, and the other two Nigerian players do the same thing. Mm-hmm. And then Jamie Tartt steps up. And again, you hope he's doing it for the right reasons. Like, you hope that this is a genuine change that we're seeing him. Just his thing, like, we all wear the same kit. I was curious about that, because again, not really knowing Premier League, like, does the game continue with that tape on, or does the owner shut it down?
I think I think any owner would shut that down before it happened, to be honest with you. But this is a TV show. And just to clarify, we're in the Championship, so we're below the Premier League, but still there are big sponsors for some of those clubs in the Championship, in the hope that they move up and get promoted to the Premier League. So they stay with them to try to support them with that possibility. So I think you make an excellent point that his father would have mentioned this before. So it seems like a little bit of a stretch of believability that all of a sudden, because Sam's on the cover of a magazine, that he's more seen than he was being in the Premier League and now in the Championship. So I agree with you that maybe that's a little bit of a mistake there that they could have corrected or found a way around. But that being said, we've seen athletes tape over Nike logos, tape over Reebok logos in post-ceremony celebrations. We've seen that. But I don't think I've ever seen it during football, or during American football or baseball or NBA, where they've taped up a logo on their jersey as they play. We've seen people turn their jerseys inside out to protest with Black Lives Matter. I know we've seen that, I think, in the NBA, or their workout gear, stuff like that, as a protest. But I don't think I've ever seen that happen. So once again, those are those things where you kind of allow a little bit of space for the show to do that for the overall point of corporations. But, is there gear Nike gear? Is there gear Adidas? I mean, like, how deep into the hole do you want to go with this protest? But the overall message, I thought, was a positive message, in that, you got to push back sometimes and use your platform in a positive way. I just wonder, now that you've introduced Sam saying in a press conference that he's accusing a country of corruption, Nigeria, an African country, this could be danger for his family. This could be danger for his life. We've seen that happen in real life to a lot of people who've spoken out against countries. I mean, we just saw in the Olympics where that young woman, I don't know if you read the story, but she, two Belarusian officials from Belarus were trying to force her to go back home, and she complained to try to get out of it, and they ended up saving her and getting her out of that situation and sending those officials home because she had dared to speak out against what was happening with her government there on her platform. So it can be dangerous for athletes to speak out in tenuous situations when family members are still in that country. So I hope that they explore that a little bit more now that they've presented it, Shannon.
I think they will. I do think they will. I mean, again, from a storytelling standpoint, the moment was awesome. It was great. And then you have that press conference afterwards where Ted immediately is like, I did not know that they were going to do it, but I fully stand behind them. And then when Sam comes in and starts taking questions, and now he's basically like, look, I'm not going to talk about football. If you want to talk about this other thing, that's what we can talk about. Yeah. I thought it was an incredibly powerful moment. And then going in and seeing how they're all celebrating the fact that, they lost, but they broke their streak of ties. So it's like, okay, well, at least we have some forward momentum here. Yeah, I'm really curious because I believe it's 12 episodes this season.
Oh, no, you're right. 12. Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, absolutely.
It's going to be interesting to see how it all kind of plays out because, Dr. Sharon, like I don't know if she and Ted have made peace per se. I think she's kind of opened the door to be like, okay, we can work together. Right. They're setting up some very interesting pieces, and whoever the owner, the one that Rebecca was emailing with, I feel like we're gonna meet that guy as well because they're the fact that will they lose that sponsor? I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's going to be a really interesting ride. And again, the fact that they wrote this prior to the reception that it got, I think really speaks to the talent of the creative team behind it.
Agreed. Absolutely agreed. And do you anticipate that we'll be getting Anthony Head back as, the former owner, her ex-husband, because he's friends with the Dubai Air guy? Do we anticipate that they'll somehow launch a way to kind of take the club away from Rebecca? That could be a possibility down the road with this situation. So
definitely.
Was this your favorite episode so far of the first three?
I don't know. They've all been really good. I mean, they've all been good and completely different. I don't think I can rank them right now. I think they're all of equal awesomeness.
Okay. All right. Fair. I don't disagree with you there. I like this episode. This episode put a stupid big smile on my face more so than any of the other episodes because I like the things that they're standing for. Now, if it's a really good show, we're going to see the consequences or the issues that come up or the obstacles that come up for them as they make these stands. And I think this loss to Coventry City is now going to, now the team's together with Jamie, it's going to jettison them into a win streak here with Jamie and Sam and Danny Rojas really kicking ass for a little while. And then we'll see what that leads to down the road for them as well. As Jamie becomes more and more confident, we'll see if his stripes start to return back on his body. We shall see for sure. All right. Well, let us know what you thought of this episode of Ted Lasso in the comments section below. Let us know what you thought about the review as well of what we had to say. Did we miss anything? Did we not touch on anything? We just try to hit the main storylines and talk about how they affect the overall arc of the show and where it's going. We'll miss a few jokes here, but overall, we're talking about the show as it's constructed. Shannon, thanks again for coming on. Where can they find you? What do you got to say, man?
Yeah, if you'd like to follow me on social media. On Twitter, it's @Shannon_McClung. On Instagram, it's Shannon the Geek Buddy. And you can see me every week with this handsome gentleman right here, along with our buddy Mike Vogel on the Geek Buddies.
Yep. And you can find me at The Rocha Says on Twitter and on Instagram, on Twitch, The Outlaw Nation. And please remember to subscribe to our channel down below here in The Outlaw Nation. Subscribe and hit that bell button so you see when we're dropping all the great content that we do. And remember to share this video on your social media as well. Give it a like and leave a comment as well. All right, that's it. We're out of here. Take care of yourselves. Believe Ted Lasso. We love you. Peace.